From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast, Wednesday, August 21st, 2024. We've got a packed show for all y'all this morning. Let's go ahead, get the ball rolling here. First of all, if this is your first time tuning in, we're trying to get you the latest cybersecurity news in under 10 minutes. I don't always succeed in that. So there's that, just kind of giving you the preempt to what's happening here. Now, join me for a coffee cup cheers. I've got my double espresso. Coffee cup cheers, y'all. Got breaking news this morning coming from Microchip Technology disclosing a cyber attack that's impacting operations at some of its manufacturing facilities. The company, in a filing yesterday with the SEC, said they spotted suspicious activity in their IT systems on August 17th. And on August 19th, they determined that they had to disrupt business operations in order to deal with this suspicious IT activity. For their end, of essentially isolated affected systems, with other systems being completely shut down. They've called in for third-party help. Currently, they're not sure whether or not this cyber attack would cause material breach. But if you halt production, is that not material breach? Very interesting. Again, this SEC rules are very, very interesting because they leave a lot for companies to essentially kind of buy time and not always disclose everything up front. And you don't know everything up front. For the sake of clarity, no one knows what's happening probably within the first week or 10 days of a cyber incident. It's really hard to know what's going on because everything is kind of shifting. And as you shut things down and as you try to bring things back online, there's, all right, this is impacted. We're going to have to rebuild this. This isn't impacted. Let's get it back up. What does this support? Is the, there's a lot of moving pieces in incident response. So the SEC rule obviously says you've got to report to the SEC within 4 days any sort of material breach you've had. So there's that. So Microchip, for their end, are kind of going through this. Now there's no we don't know if this was a ransomware attack or if this was something else. Now no one's claimed responsibility for it, meaning no ransomware group is out there on the dark web advertising saying we have Microchip, we were able to take all this data out. But Microchip is significant in terms of microcontrollers, mixed signal, analog, flash IP solutions. They have 123,000 customers across many industries, including aerospace, defense, communications, automotive, consumer, and computing. So you can imagine what this is going to have. And also just within recently, they've been given a CVE numbering authority, allowing them to assign CVE identifiers to vulnerabilities found in their own products. So all in all, a very difficult day for the folks over at Microchip. So we'll take that there. So this was something I saw yesterday, thanks to my good friend David Katz, who's a really brilliant cybersecurity attorney. This is from July, and it kind of disappeared. Not a lot of people talked about it, but the Federal Trade Commission here is issuing kind of a unwritten rule per se, saying they think that hashing is actually misleading the public in terms of data security. And in fact, in this blog, they go about to say that obscuring personal data through hashing is not effective, that in fact it's not anonymous, that the fact is that it's easily identifiable. And they say that, and I'm quoting here what's written in their blog here, and this is available in the show notes. The logic is as old as it is flawed. Hashes aren't anonymous. They can still be used to identify users, and their misuse could lead to harms. Companies should not act or claim as if hashing PII renders it anonymized. And now here's the warning. Here's the shot across the bow for anyone using hashing in their trust page or anywhere. FTC staff will remain vigilant to ensure companies are following the law and take action where privacy claims they make are deceptive. When you look at the SolarWinds case against Tim Brown, one of the things that stuck around after that latest hearing was the trust page for SolarWinds, kind of the cybersecurity claims made by the company, which technically speaking and based on personal knowledge, Tim Brown had very little control over. That was predominantly compliance and legal putting that together, yet he's the one bearing the brunt force of that legal action. So, does hashing make data anonymous? And the answer is no. And now the FTC is kind of coming around saying anyone who says we hash personal data, well, guess what? We don't buy it. You're misleading consumers about your data security practices, and we will consider taking enforcement action against you. As a CISO, this is a stark reminder. As a cybersecurity practitioner, as someone in compliance, this is a stark reminder of the shifting goalpost when there's no clear standard put in place. Additionally, if you're using hashing anywhere in your documentation, I would take this blog out from the FTC. And again, it's available on our show notes. You can find it on our Substack or anywhere else. And talk to legal about this and identify where you could potentially be at risk with getting in trouble with the FTC, because all it takes is one complaint. All it takes is several consumer complaints for the FTC to go, you know what? We're going to come knocking on your door. Let us know why you're using hashing. Why are you misleading people? Okay, now let's get into a settlement talk. Very, very easy. Very easy. So there's that. Let's move on to the Canon Corporation, also doing business as Canon Design. This is a multi-awarded architectural engineering and consulting firm that's based in the US. These guys do high-profile projects. So if you've never heard of them before, it's not Canon, the photography company, but rather the architectural engineering and consulting design firm. They say they were breached earlier in January of last year when they had unauthorized network access and data exfiltration. Although the intrusion happened in January of 2023, the investigation was only completed on May 3rd. And it took them another 3 months to actually put out the report here of the breach itself. And it just kind of shows you that how difficult it is sometimes to do forensics, how companies that may not have in-house cybersecurity practitioners or IT practitioners that may outsource it could end up in a world of hurt. The investigation revealed that the threat actors accessed names, addresses, social security numbers, and driver's license numbers of potential employees and customers of the company. They have not named the customers responsible for it. However, the disclosure does relate to the Avis Locker ransomware group as it relates to the timeline of them and also their leak site from 2023. All in all, they published around 2 terabytes worth of data there as well. And so there's that. They're now finally coming through with reporting that. A French security services firm called QuarkSlab is making an eye-popping discovery. They're saying that there's a backdoor in millions of contactless cards. Those are the RFID smart cards we all carry when you're going into a hotel room or your office buildings. Specifically, they're addressing the ones made by Shanghai Fudan Microelectronics Group, one of the leading manufacturers in China. The backdoor, which was documented in a research paper, talks about the fact that in just a few minutes of physical proximity to an affected card, that's all it takes an attacker to conduct an attack, and they can actually do it at scale. Simply speaking, if you hang out in the hotel lobby long enough, you can probably copy every key of every guest walking through the lobby. If you're hanging out at an office building, you could possibly do the same. The Micro Classic and Card family, originally launched in 1994 by Philips, was widely used and has been subjected to numerous attacks over the years. Security vulnerabilities that allow card-only attacks, they require access to cards, but you don't need to have physical access to cards. You need to be within physical proximity of cards. Now, if you've ever walked down a downtown area or any sort of, kind of urban area with office buildings, and then you walked around and you went to a Starbucks or any coffee shop or any lunch place, most people have their tags either around their necks, meaning on their chest, kind of hanging from a lanyard, or attached to their belt or pants in some way, method or another, meaning this attack method is not only common, but it's fairly easy. And if you're standing in line at a Starbucks, if you just need a few minutes to take advantage of this vulnerability, which would allow you to read and write all of their content and essentially clone the card, just stand in line and clone every single card you can get your hands on, and then find out later how you plan to use them. Again, social, you're engineering way into an organization is significant. So just something here to be mindful of. These cards are being used in hotels across the US, Europe, and India, also in buildings. So you want to make sure you double check that as well. If you haven't subscribed to our Substack, jamesazar.substack.com is where you can find all the latest. You can also find the podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform, our YouTube channel, and anywhere else you get your news. Find us there as well. Let's go ahead and now hit the second part of the show, what I like to call our quick wrap-up segments here. A privilege escalation vulnerability in Microsoft Azure Kubernetes could have allowed attackers to access sensitive information, according to Mandiant. They could have accessed credentials or services used by the cluster. The flaw, which could be exploited even if the pod didn't run with the host network enabled and did not have root privileges, was resolved by Microsoft. So if you've patched this, it no longer is applicable, but now Mandiant is essentially giving out the full details of this one. Again, a worthy read there as well. In case of an operational security lapse, the operator behind new information stealer called Styx Stealers leaked data from their own computers, including ones related to clients, profit information, nicknames, phone numbers, and email addresses. This is a derivative of the Fiend Drone Stealer, which is capable of stealing browser data, instant message session tokens from Telegram and Discord, and cryptocurrency wallet information. According to Checkpoint, it first emerged in April of this year. Styx Stealer is most likely based on a source code of an old version of the Fiend Drone Stealer, which lacks some features found in newer versions, such as sending reports to Telegram, report encryption, and more. So all in all, now that's leaked out. Now let's go ahead and get to some congressional and legislation stuff. There's a growing threat from Chinese Wi-Fi router manufacturer TP-Link in the U.S., according to two congressional representatives, bipartisan, by the way. So these are Representative John Molinar from Michigan and Raja Karan Mathurathi from Illinois of the House Select Committee on the Strategic Competition between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party. They're calling on the Department of Commerce to examine the company and verify the threat. TP-Link, the largest provider of Wi-Fi products, walked into any electronic store in this country, and TP-Link has more shelf space than almost anyone else. The routers, which are made in China, where the company is based, raise concern that it makes it easier for state-sponsored attackers to compromise the routers and infiltrate U.S. systems. In addition, TP-Link is subject to national security laws by PRC, requiring Chinese vendors to submit sensitive data to Chinese intelligence officials. All in all, they want to get a threat assessment and mitigation plan done by Secretary Raimondo by the end of this month. We'll see if that actually happens. Harry Cocker, the cyber czar and the Biden administration's national cybersecurity director, spoke about wanting to invest $11 million towards improving security and open source software, a key focus area. When he's speaking at DEF CON in Vegas a few weeks ago, he said the investment will back a program called the Open Source Software Prevalence Initiative, which will assess the prevalence of open source software used in operational technology settings by critical infrastructure behavior. And the funding will come from DHS as part of a bipartisan infrastructure bill. And that funding is only $11 million. And that's that. Now, sake of all things here, I am going to go ahead and say this is BS. I'm also going to call out the federal government on their spending $11 million to secure something so important in cyber and OT and critical infrastructure. So I went into ChatGPT this morning. I did the web browser search and I said, hey, let me know what's the government wasteful spending report looks like. So just kind of want to give you an idea that the Department of Defense left $169 million worth of military equipment outdoors, leading to its ruin. That's waste. We allocated $6 million to promote tourism in Egypt. We've also distributed $200 million in COVID relief funds to music artists. You know, the starving Post Malones, Lil Waynes, and Chris Browns of the world. When during COVID, their music was still being listened to. They were still making money. They couldn't do concerts. But it was important for the federal government to give them $200 million. That's talk about wasteful spending. The VA wasted $8 million on solar panels that were never used. And the Department of Defense lost $28 million worth of heavy equipment out of its withdrawal in Afghanistan. That's just a little touch. $11 million. That's all you're going to allocate to this for critical infrastructure for our nation. An absolute disgrace is what that is. It is a slap in the face of every taxpaying American. Invest the right amount of money, create the right programs to incentivize good security so that we're able to deal with our adversaries. Unless your words are one thing and actions are another. We'll get to that when we examine both presidential campaign stakes on cybersecurity here in the next week or so. And in sad news, the British tech entrepreneur Mike Lynch, the co-founder of Darktrace and Autonomy, is among 6 people that have now been presumed dead after a super yacht, the Bayesian, sank off the coast of Sicily early Monday. The 184-foot vessel was caught in a sudden and severe storm with a water spout striking it while it was anchored near Porticello, Italy. Out of the 22 people on board, 15 were rescued. 1 was confirmed dead. 6 remain missing, including a tech entrepreneur and Darktrace co-founder Mike Lynch. His 18-year-old daughter Hannah is also among the missing. Jonathan Bloomer, the chairman of Morgan Stanley International, and his wife are also missing among the 6 that still remain. So our thoughts and prayers go out to the Lynch family, to the Darktrace family, and everyone else. Those news cannot be easy to digest. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, with the latest. Until then, please make sure to subscribe, follow us, and tune in tomorrow live with all the latest and greatest. Till then, have a great rest of your day, and most importantly, all stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.